Hi, I'm Dana Shoaf, editor of Civil War Times Magazine, and I'm here with Melissa Winn, director of photography behind the camera. Welcome to our first Monday's broadcast for this month. We didn't have it last Monday, of course, because of the Labor Day holiday. I hope you all had a great holiday. And even though summer is summer's still going on, right? We haven't reached fall yet, and it certainly feels like summer out here today. It's pretty hot and warm, and the sun's on my face, so I apologize if beads of sweat pour down my face and, you know, it reflects off the light and all that good stuff. But anyway, welcome back. And today we are at Fredericksburg, Virginia. We are on the Battle of Fredericksburg National Park Service site, and we're in the Fredericksburg National Cemetery. And I want to tell you a story primarily centered on the monument behind me, which is a monument to Major General Andrew Atkinson Humphreys, 5th Corps of the Army of the Potomac. Did you have something? No? Okay. So, Humphreys Division is interesting because it's composed entirely of Pennsylvania regiments and mostly of 9 months regiments that enlisted for only a short amount of time to serve. There's 2 brigades, one commanded by Colonel Peter Albach. We're going to walk around the monument here. You can see Albach's regiment listed on this side of the monument base. And Melissa and I are going to walk around the front. We're going to see the front here dedicated to the entire division and all the 8 regiments. And then we'll walk around to this side of the granite base, and you're going to see the 1st Brigade listed of Humphreys Division. And the commander is Brigadier General Erastus B. Tyler of the 1st Brigade. And the reason I'm interested in this monument, kind of the story I want to tell is a little bit personal, is the 134th Regiment commanded by Colonel Edward O'Brien. And that unit were 2 of my close relatives, my great uncle, Basleal Cameron, and my great grandfather, George Washington Cameron. I'm going to tell you about the attack these guys made against Marye's Heights, the last Union attack of the day of the Battle of Fredericksburg. Give you a quick overview of the campaign and the battle. Of course, September 1862 is the Battle of Antietam. Not long after that, Abraham Lincoln is dissatisfied with George McClellan's pursuit of Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia, and he relieves McClellan and replaces him with Major General Ambrose Burnside in command of the Army of the Potomac. Burnside actually moves quickly to get the Army of the Potomac to Fredericksburg, hoping, well, he does get between Lee and Richmond. But there's an administrative problem, a logistical problem, and they need pontoon bridges here to cross the Rappahannock River. Those pontoon bridges are delayed through a series of basically screw-ups by the Union Army, and that gives Lee time to get his troops here and fortify this high ground that we're standing on. Technically, where I'm standing right now is called Willis Hill, and it's part of a series of hills that are often collectively called Marye's Heights. Now, Melissa's going to turn around slowly, and you're going to see some of the gravestones of the National Cemetery, but hopefully you can see how the ground drops off pretty severely. So this is a sharp rise of ground. During the battle, there was no building out there. It was about a mile of open plain to the Rappahannock River. At the base of Marye's Heights was a road, and that road was bounded by a stone wall. And that will be the most notorious feature of the Battle of Fredericksburg, the stone wall that the Union forces fruitlessly attacked throughout the day on December 13th, 1862. The top of these hills have a massed amount of Confederate artillery. Confederate artillery commander Porter Alexander famously tells General James Longstreet, sort of a paraphrase here, that his cannons were so well situated that they would comb the ground out in front of these heights as if by a comb, and not even a chicken could live if it tried to cross it. And that prophecy is going to come pretty true. There's also about roughly 6,000 Confederate infantrymen, and they're outnumbered, but their numbers are offset by this really strong defensive position. Starting about 10 in the morning, Federal troops try to attack Marye's Heights and the stone wall. There's 3 significant attacks by the 2nd Corps of the Army of the Potomac, and they are all turned back. They're all defeated. It's getting to be dusk, and about 2:30 in the afternoon, Humphreys Division was ordered to cross the Rappahannock River on the pontoon bridges and form up. Their attack will take place around dusk. Albach's brigade is put in front. Tyler's brigade is put in the rear. The entire division is given orders by Humphreys not to load their muskets, to go in with unloaded muskets and fixed bayonets and don't stop to shoot. Albach's brigade will lead off, And this division is big. It's got about 4,500 men in it because these guys have not really seen combat yet. They're green troops, they're not worn down, they have some disease losses, but not a lot of casualties. So as this attack begins to form, this large group of men attracts the attention of a lot of other Union officers who write about watching this attack. Alfred Wobe, the famous sketch artist, sees this attack and actually does a drawing of it that's turned into an engraving that will be distributed through Harper's Weekly and really serve as a major illustration of this battle. The men step off, the Albach's brigade leads, they approach the stone wall, get within a few yards, and again, they are turned back. And then it's up to Tyler's brigade. It's very dramatic at this point. Dusk is setting across the battlefield, the purple December twilight. It's a very dramatic scene when these men move off with a roar and a rush across that open field, that muddy, bloody open field scattered with corpses and wounded men of previous attacks. They roar across the ground and make good progress until they reach a low rise of ground a few yards in front of the wall. And behind that low rise of ground, survivors of the Second Corps attacks are laying, trying to get whatever shelter they can. As these green troops move over them, those Second Corps men rise up, tackling and trying to grab at these green Fifth Corps soldiers, telling them, don't go forward, you'll be slaughtered. That breaks the cohesion of the charge. Tyler's men manage to get past that mob, but their inertia is gone and they stop and they open fire on the Confederate infantry behind the stone wall, and of course they have no chance. The Confederate gunfire slays into these men and drives them back across the ground from where they came. Tyler's brigade will suffer heavy losses, and the 134th Pennsylvania will suffer the highest losses of any regiment in Humphreys Division, 148 men. One of those casualties is my great uncle, Basile Cameron. He's struck by either a piece of artillery fragment or a bullet, and he's taken off the battlefield on a stretcher. Now, one of the surgeons that attended the Humphreys Division said they were tearing shutters off the houses to use as stretchers. And I often imagine if he was carried off on a shutter to some field hospital, but he will die 2 days later of this wound. And that's one of the things that gives Civil War battlefields, for me and so many people like you, this sense of immediacy. You come to a place like this and the Civil War doesn't feel very far away. Because if my great-grandfather had taken that round instead of my great-uncle, I wouldn't be here. And the Civil War just doesn't seem very far away when you think about it like that. And as Melissa pans around, you can see all these graves contain similar stories. Hundreds of American families impacted by this engagement and can come to places like this that are thankfully preserved and make a touchstone with the Civil War. And again, it feels very personal when you do that. 9-month regiments didn't work out very well. It was not a great idea by the North. It's not long enough to turn men into proficient soldiers. Some of these regiments didn't see any action, but the men of Albach and Tyler's brigade, saw a horrific amount. It wasn't about how long they were in the Army, but their experiences at Fredericksburg were really rough. I'm fortunate to own this small piece of Tyler's brigade. This is a very small regimental history written by men of the 126th Pennsylvania, also in Tyler's brigade. The copyright on this is 1869. That's really early in the post-war period for any kind of recollections. And most of this, when you read through it, talks about their ordeal at Fredericksburg. It's just another indication that even though they weren't in the Army very long, what they saw at this battle really deeply affected them. And in this case, this regiment, raised near the Pennsylvania border out of Chambersburg and Juniata counties, really saw a lot of fighting here as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and I hope when you come to Fredericksburg, you come up and see the Humphreys Monument and think about those 9-month men that really hadn't had a lot of battle experience and what they were thrown into here. It can be a very moving place to go to a cemetery in any event, especially a national cemetery like this one. And I hope you'll join us between 1:30 and 2 o'clock when we meet with our friend Eric Mink, and he's going to show us, Eric is a National Park Service Ranger, and he's going to show us a place on the battlefield that he finds particularly moving as well, and I think you'll enjoy that. So until then, Melissa, do we have anyone to say hi to?
Sure, we've got Sharita Bitterkoffer, Mike Talplacido, Tom from Austin, Texas says hello.
How you doing, everybody? Thank you. I appreciate you tuning in, and if you can join us later in the afternoon, please do so. Until then, This is Dana Shoaf and Melissa Winn from Civil War Times Magazine signing off from the Humphreys Division Monument in the Fredericksburg National Cemetery.